Ever stop to think about how the apps on your phone actually get made? You know, how they go from just a random idea to this thing you use every single day? Well, today we're going to dive deep into the world of software development and see exactly how that happens.
Right, so it can feel like some kind of tech magic, but behind every single app, there's a really structured plan. It's kind of like a recipe that developers follow. And today, we're going to break down that recipe, step by step. So, the official name for this recipe is a software process. And honestly, the blueprint analogy is perfect. You wouldn't just start building a house without a plan, right? Same deal here. You don't build software without a process. It's the framework that guides the whole thing, making sure everything gets done in a logical order.
Now, while there are a ton of different recipes for building software, they all share these four key ingredients. First, you've got to figure out what the thing is supposed to do. Then you actually plan it out and build it. Next, you have to check if it actually works the way it's supposed to. And finally, and this is super important, you have to keep it alive with updates and new features. Every process we're going to look at does these four things. They just might do them in a different order or focus on different parts.
Okay, so let's start with a real classic, the waterfall model. For a long, long time, this was pretty much the standard way of doing things. It's really simple to understand. It's a linear, step-by-step approach where progress flows downwards, kind of like, you guessed it, a waterfall.
The flow is always downwards. You start by gathering all the requirements, and only when that phase is 100% complete and signed off do you move to design. After the design is locked in, you build it, and so on. Each step is its own little world, and the crucial part, you can't go back up the waterfall.
To make this a bit more concrete, let's pretend we're building a brand new mobile banking app, and we're going to use the waterfall model to do it.
So in step one, we'd sit down with the bank and write down every single feature they could possibly want. We're talking viewing your balance, transferring money, fingerprint login, all of it. And this document, it's basically set in stone before we can move on to the next step. With those requirements locked down, we move to the design phase. This is where architects create super detailed blueprints for the entire app, what every single screen is going to look like, how the database will work, all the security rules to keep your money safe. And remember, this is all happening on paper before anyone writes a single line of code.
Okay, now we hand those blueprints over to the developers. This is the construction phase. They get to work and build everything. The login screen, the money transfer part, the whole shebang. They're just following the design documents to a T.
Now get this, only after every single piece of code for every feature has been written do we finally move to testing. The whole app is put together for the very first time, and a completely separate team just tries to break it, finding all the bugs before it goes out the door.
And this right here, this brings us to the model's Achilles heel. Because everything is planned up front and each phase is locked, making changes is incredibly difficult, not to mention expensive.
So imagine the bank suddenly has a brilliant idea for a bill payment feature after the design phase is already finished and signed off. In a strict waterfall world, that's a massive, massive problem. And this very issue, especially as the internet made everything faster, led to whole new ways of thinking about building software. And that leads us straight to the incremental model. Instead of building the entire system in one giant go, this approach is all about building and delivering the software in smaller, functional, bite-sized pieces. It's really the core idea behind a lot of modern methods you've probably heard of, like Agile. The key concept to grasp here is the increment. You can think of it like a mini project. So, for our banking app, the very first increment might just be a working login screen and a way to view your balance. That's it. The next increment might add money transfers. Each little piece is a usable product that just keeps adding more features.
Looking at them side by side like this makes the difference totally clear. Waterfall is rigid. Incremental is flexible. It's easy to add new stuff. With waterfall, testing happens way at the end, when fixing a bug can be a nightmare. With incremental, you test each little piece as you go. And maybe the biggest thing, the customer gets to see and use a working version of the app really early on. This hugely reduces the risk of spending a year building something only to find out it's not what they wanted. So, we've looked at two pretty different approaches, right? But they both have to deal with the one thing that's absolutely constant in software development: change. It doesn't matter how well you plan, things are always going to change. A competitor might release some killer new feature, a new phone comes out that you have to support, or users just realize they need something different.
A successful software process isn't one that avoids change, it's one that has a great strategy to manage it.
And one of the most powerful strategies for managing all that change is prototyping. Before you commit to building the final, super complex system, you build a quick, simplified version, a rough draft. It might just be a series of drawings of the screens or a small working demo just to show people what you're thinking.
The benefits of doing this are just massive. When you did a prototype in front of real users early, you get instant feedback. That leads to a better design that actually meets their needs. But most importantly, it helps you catch big mistakes and misunderstandings early on, which avoids incredibly expensive fixes later.
So what's the big takeaway here? Well, it's not that one process is just better than another. A waterfall approach could be totally fine for a project where the goals are really simple and never going to change. But for the kind of complex, constantly shifting apps we use today, something more flexible is pretty much essential. The real lesson is that modern software development is all about embracing change, not just putting up with it.
So here's something to think about. The next time you update an app on your phone and you just see one or two new features pop up, you're actually seeing an incremental process in action. You're watching a complex system that was designed from the ground up to evolve, one little piece at a time. Pretty cool, right?